we are going into the online world much more with every single platform that comes on, the TikToks of the world. I guess that's the latest thing that's really popped its head since the Snapchats and all that fun stuff have been around. So you can't necessarily avoid the online world because people will be searching for you. Millennials are going to be searching for you before they call you or text you. Gen Z is going to be looking for you.
This is episode 3 of the podcast. This is called the Trusted Advisor Mortgages and More podcast. We go through all things to do with mortgages, real estate, financial services, and how it all ties together with social media and marketing and basically providing a better overall experience to our clients. Today, I am here with none other than Jaime Resendiz with Echo Real Estate Advisors, right?
That's it.
Okay, Echo Real Estate Advisors. Jaime is a very active realtor working in social media and using online marketing and using the tools to provide a better experience for his clients. That's how I came into contact with him. And so it was really important to me to get him on as soon as I could. Thanks for being here, Jaime. Tell us a little about yourself and how you ended up becoming a realtor, because that's a real interesting story.
Well, I appreciate the invitation first and foremost. And I immediately after college, I started in the healthcare industry. So I did that for about 4.5 years. I wore several hats, went to manager, then did the CFO route, and then became the COO of the company. So did that for a little while, again, 4.5 years. Then I transitioned into wanting to go out and doing my own thing. So I immediately jumped into a arm of real estate. And what I mean by that is I started my own business brokerage. So I was helping business owners sell their business. And what I soon found out was that I needed to have a real estate license in order to participate in the sale of a commercial property. I didn't necessarily know that, but I was more interested in the business aspect of getting businesses sold and some level of mergers and acquisitions, so helping people purchase businesses. So it was through that process that I went and received my real estate license, and that was in 2017. So I've been a licensed realtor since then. Throughout that time, as I had my business brokerage, I did do residential and commercial real estate, but most of what I was concentrating on was the business brokerage in the act of helping people buy and helping people sell businesses. It was through that process that I ended up purchasing a property management company, and I soon found out that property management is hell on earth. So I quickly sold that property. I quickly sold that property management company, and I felt that I continued doing real estate throughout the entire process, if you will, throughout that entire timeline. But I didn't necessarily want to continue doing the business brokerage per se. So I ended up partnering with an individual that owned a boba tea shop. So we ended up growing that company rather quickly. And this was in 2018. We added another food truck, we added another location, and we got into several different locations and expanded the boba tea business. And then I ended up selling my part of the company back to the original founder. And ever since then, I've been focusing on the real estate as a practitioner and focusing on real estate as a marketing strategist. So I've just been kind of bouncing around from different things here and there, but mostly revolving around real estate and mostly revolving around business development and growing a business, whether that was a property management company trying to grow its value and growing its doors, or being in the boba tea business and growing locations and growing sales.
That's really interesting. Can I sidetrack on the business brokerage thing for just a second? I wasn't planning on talking about this. let's say you have a small business owner, family business, little retail shop that between the owner's salary and profits, he's taking home $100,000 a year after his expenses. What can someone like that sell an established business for?
Depending on what that business is what the answer is going to be. So if you're looking at, once you factor in everything else and add the salaries back in, or the owner's salary back into the business, then you're looking at a multiple. So it's the multiple of EBITDA, earnings before interest, tax, depreciation and amortization. So you're looking at a multiple at that point. There's some businesses that are, well, actually all businesses that I can think of can either be sold based off of a percentage of revenue or based off of a multiple of EBITDA. So to answer your question, I can't necessarily answer it, but dependent, if it's a dry cleaner, you can expect, if I remember correctly, let's say 2 to 5 times multiple of EBITDA.
So it's a pretty big range.
It ranges, and a lot of it has to do you own the property? A lot of it has to do what is your customer mix? Are you more with the bigger establishments like hotels and doing that type of stuff, so more commercial, or are you more of the retail? And just, it does vary quite a bit, but really any business that you can look at is sellable as long as the owner gets somebody in place to either replace them or they have a manager in place to continue running the business.
Okay. So it's got to be a business that the buyer can see will continue without the owner there. So ideally you want them already to have the person running it in place when you're trying to get it sold.
If you're looking to cash out, so if you're looking to cash out as an owner, you want to have either a management in place if you can, or else you're limited with the type of buyer that you're going to bring in. So if somebody's looking to purchase and not touch the business at all, then they're not an owner operator. And if you're the owner operator, then selling to that person, they're going to give you a less multiple because it's not as valuable to them. They're not buying a job, or they're not buying employment. They are buying it for the cash flow. They're buying it as an investment. And ideally they want to have somebody already in place operating that business. So that's one thing, just to, as people are looking to transition out, that's something that they need to keep in mind, either getting somebody else in the fray so they can continue running the business so you can capture the most amount of money possible when you cash out, or have systems in place to where the business can actually be sold without as much business interruption with you not being there. So having that in place, and then I think you could probably appreciate this the most, would be having your finances as clean as possible, because there is a lot of creative bookkeeping when it comes to small business owners that they're just used to operating that way. So you realistically, to get the highest possible value whenever you sell a business, you are looking at cleaning up your books for at least 2 to 3 years, and also putting a system or management system in place so you don't have to, you're not the only person keeping the business going. And if you're the only person in that business, then you don't have a business. You have a job.
That's a good way to put it.
Because at that point, it's not, the wealth is not transferable, if you will. If you're the only one that has the skill set, the knowledge set, you're out there, you are the carpenter, you are the one creating the chairs, the tables, the everything else. You never brought in an apprentice, you never hired an employee. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. It's just whenever you're looking to make that transition out, then what are you transitioning out? The book of business would be sold for pennies on the dollar at that point. So then you become more of a person that collects money based off of referrals, because you can't service that business any longer. So there's nothing wrong with that. It's just the reality of the situation. And with a lot of people retiring based off of the, people getting older, and the boomers retiring, then you are looking at the largest transfer of wealth out there where a lot of the boomers ended up creating businesses, but either their children or grandchildren don't want to continue operating the business, then you're looking at having to sell or just shutting down.
Yeah, that always makes me sad actually when I see a business. I was watching TV the other day with my wife, and there's a jewelry store in downtown San Francisco that's been there since 1886, and they're liquidating and shutting their doors. So for whatever reason, the current generation didn't want to continue on with the business, or couldn't, or maybe they didn't have any heirs. I don't know. But whenever I see something like that, a business that's been an establishment for so long, and either the heirs, like you say, aren't interested, or they mismanage it and it just goes under. It's always feels like there's something lost there.
Yeah, it happens. It's happening a lot right now, actually. Again, it's the biggest transfer of wealth at the moment.
Well, thank you for that. I wasn't planning on touching on the business brokerage aspect. It just occurred to me because I actually used to work a little bit with a business broker 20 years ago and helping him find financing for his clients. And there was a lot of he was trying to sell a lot of mom and pop video stores at the time when Blockbuster was coming in and taking over. And some of those people just got into some really bad situations that he probably saw coming. I've known people over the years that have had their own independent video stores that have made a killing on them back in the day. But it seems to me that that's a very difficult business to be in and do it well. So you've got a couple different Facebook groups where I've seen you. Can you talk a little bit about what your groups are that you've set up, why you set them up, and what you're teaching people between Facebook and YouTube, and how all that comes together into your business package?
My audience is real estate agents. That's my primary focus. But then you have derivatives of the real estate agents. So at the broader category would be real estate professionals. So lenders, they would fall in there. Appraisers, they would fall in there. Title companies would fall into that category as well. But primarily I'm speaking to real estate agents. And that is my core audience. So in order to serve that audience, I have created a YouTube channel that I am doing daily videos from here until the end of the year, and then possibly into next year, just depending on how quickly I can scale the channel. But that's my primary mode of distribution. But to answer your question about the Facebook groups that I've created are geared towards real estate professionals as well. The reason I don't necessarily have let me back up. With Facebook, you have a personal page. You also have a fan page. And then you also have group pages, which are more community-based. The reach from a personal standpoint, from a personal page, is limited. You have a 5,000 friend limit. So that's from the friend, from a personal. From a fan page, you don't necessarily have a limit, but your reach is limited based off of Facebook wanting you to spend money to reach your own audience. So every time that you post, you get less than 3% of the people who are subscribed to you or liked your fan page that will actually see your message. And then that third category that I was mentioning is a group. And groups started becoming a thing about 3 years ago, where a lot of the changes that were limiting the reach on the fan page were affecting creators, were affecting people that were trying to spread their message about their business and their brand. So they went to the community route, and that's where you start seeing the resurgence, or I guess I shouldn't say resurgence, because that's where you started seeing a lot of groups and become pretty mainstream. So anybody that has a brand or trying to grow their brand or trying to build a community in a tribe, that's where they would go to create a group, because the exposure was actually larger. You may have 5,000 people in your group, and at this point, you're not looking at 3% of the people seeing your messages. You're looking at 5, 10%. So the exposure was a lot larger to the audience that you had already created. So the community group, the groups, it really took hold at that point because people were actually seeing your message. And that's why a lot of people transitioned to that. And that's kind of what I've adopted in, dependent on if people purchase, let's just say, a Facebook program from me or a YouTube ads program from me. They will go into a community dependent on the program that they purchase. So I sell courses for lead generation, and they'll go into these groups so then they can continue to build and grow and have access to me. As I mean, I'm on Facebook all of the time. So it becomes an accessibility thing. It becomes a way to continue building your tribe and be able to really help people that have, trusted you enough to purchase one of your products. I went all over on that one, but it just serves so many different facets. It's a great communication tool and a great way to build your tribe.
So effectively, when people have like a business page on Facebook, that's the equivalent of the fan page in what you were just discussing. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you see a lot of businesses setting up as a group page instead? Or
you see them more as in addition to, not necessarily an instead. So I'll give you an example. A lot of the real estate professionals use, let's just say, LionDesk as a CRM. It's a very popular CRM for real estate professionals. So LionDesk has a page, and then they also have a community group. So people that are users, they can go in there and get help. They can go in there and brainstorm. They can go in there for motivation or whatever you want that group to be. Another software, another real estate related company, Remind. That is also, they have their page, and then they have their community group. So people go in there and contribute. People go in there and share strategies. And a lot of different, let's just say, companies do that as well as a way to continue building that tribe and indoctrinate people as much as possible.
That's interesting. I'd never actually thought about it that way. So that's definitely opens my eyes a little bit to setting up what I need to do, because I've actually got a few different, I guess they'd be like fan pages for different companies or even different services within the same company. Okay.
Now, ideally, you have to, pick a lane in the sense of, will you be carrying the group, or will you, promote the group to continue organically growing? So if it's, I'll give you another example. There's this large group called Lab Coat Agents. They have over 100,000 agents in their group. So there you just see comments for days. You do see the moderators. You do see the people that created the group active, but that is 2% of the content that goes there. It's actually the group, the members of the group, that are generating the conversations, answering the questions, and then just really engaging with each other. So you have to consider, will you be carrying the group as the thought leader and having something to post every single day, even though you may not get as much of engagement, or you're going to really promote and empower the members to do that within. Ideally, you want both, right? You want to have your voice and be that thought leader, if you will, but you also don't want to be speaking into the breeze. And you want your members to be engaged as much as possible.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So let's see, let me get this straight here. You've been a full-time realtor now only for 2 years, basically.
Yeah,
when it comes to residential sales, a little over 2 years. How crucial has the technology portion and social media been to you making this a successful business on your part? Because I know a lot of guys, I heard a statistic this morning, and I'm not sure where, that 80% of the people don't last the first year in real estate. That there's a lot of people who pop in and pop back out because they just can't make a go of it. What made you successful where so many people fail?
Well, it seems that you have two camps. You have those camps that are going to be in the cold call until I die and door knock until I die. And then you have those people that are in the online world. At the end of the day, you need both. And the reason I say that is because I have an interview show that I created on my YouTube channel. It's called Echo Interviews, and I have interviewed a good amount of the top agents, a good amount of the thought leaders and really successful people in real estate. And I have a question where I at the end of the interview show, it goes something to the effect of, if you had to start all over again today, what do your next 7 days look like? So what I'm trying to extrapolate from that question is, I want action-based items to be shared from top producers. So 99% of the people that are on Echo Interviews answer, well, I'm going to go out and door knock. I'm going to go out and cold call. I'm going to go out and do open houses. So the things that have been around for such a long time, and they answer in that capacity, this is what I'm doing the next 7 days. But also I am building my Facebook profile, I'm building my Instagram, I'm building my LinkedIn. So they're doing that in addition to, because they understand that this side can be seen more as branding, and it is to some extent. But if we're looking at getting your business jump started, there are some activities that you can count on and take to the bank, literally, that you know that you would need to do in order to be successful from the very beginning. So my answer is going to be a combination of the two. But yes, we are going into the online world much more with every single platform that comes on, the TikToks of the world. I guess that's the latest thing that's really popped its head since the Snapchats and all that fun stuff have been around. So you can't necessarily avoid the online world, because people will be searching for you. Millennials are going to be searching for you before they call you or text you. Gen Z is going to be looking for you. So you need to be found in some capacity, and just having a Zillow profile with a blank silhouette or a blank icon where your picture should be is not going to cut it. Now, you have people that are multi-million-dollar producers that have that, but I can give you a guess of how old they are, and I can give you a guess of how old their clientele is. Because a millennial that doesn't necessarily know, I know we get a bad rap as millennials, but a millennial, Gen Z, even people a little bit older than millennials, that's not going to cut it. And it's not that they don't trust you or anything else like that, but it's just not how they are as consumers. I hope that makes sense.
No, it makes plenty of sense. And I find that fascinating. I was surprised after watching your videos and the way you teach people how to prospect and how to dig up the clients, and using Remind to come up with information, or the other tools that you have out there. It's shocking to me that you started your realty career in 2017, because I would have thought that you were one of those old school 15 years in the industry and came up through everything. And part of how you understand how all these tools work is you were there when they started. And
Well,
that's how you come across.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm glad I was able to give that perception. But really what's helped me out more than anything is the platform itself. And what I mean by that is there's a level of authority that gets transmitted by teaching something. And I'm not saying I don't know what I'm talking about, because I'd like to think that I do. And the results that I show on my YouTube channel, on my Facebook groups, and everything else like that, in regards to helping people generate leads and establishing business, there's a level of credibility that the platform gives just by the simple fact of you being on there. So going through the trouble of learning how something works, learning how to run a Facebook ad, how to go to a YouTube ad, and actually getting results and being able to teach somebody, that is powerful in and of itself. But then you're also having to communicate it through video. And by you being on YouTube, where a lot of people go for answers, then the platform in and of itself helps you. So I'll give you another example. Whenever you are, let's say, fitting something with plumbing, or whenever you're working on electrical, then you need to figure out how the circuits work, or you need to figure out how to make your grass green, then you're going to go to YouTube and look to see what people are doing. So you're getting your answer immediately, and the person, you're not necessarily interested in, well, what is their credentials? How did I need to know that you know how this grass grows. I need to know how long it takes. No, you gave me the answer right then and there. So there's not too much behind it. I mean, it's pretty evident at the end of the day whenever you go through the video whether it works or not, because when you go and do it, you expect similar results. They're not going to be exact because there's there's that experience that still takes hold. But if you go and try to do exactly what they're saying and suddenly no buttons are even there, well, then it's just the whole, do they even know what they're talking about? So that's why I like the question. I'm sorry, I don't mean to plug the whole Echo Interviews thing, but that's why I really like the last question in my interview show, because it cuts through the abstract. It cuts through the very in the cloud type of advice where you hear, well, grind, work hard, stay late, or just be patient, or do all this stuff. Well, okay, I get that, but how am I going to, what do I need to do? So it cuts through all of that fluff and gives some actionable steps that you can implement in your business today.
Yeah, and I think that's fantastic. What you're doing is you're going to someone who's a long-term practitioner and saying, if you had to do something today to survive, what are you going to do? And I like the way they break it down and get back to the very beginning and start there and decide how you're going to do that. Now, a few minutes ago, you mentioned TikTok. Have you jumped onto there yet?
No. I've created an account. I've gone around here and there, but as far as me creating something,
Okay.
I need to. I really do need to, but I just haven't.
You probably wouldn't believe this from the stuff you've seen of me online. I've only been on Instagram using it for about 3 or 4 months because I couldn't figure out how to get things to post, because I don't live on my phone. I'm always sitting in front of a computer. So I'd go on Instagram and try to put something together, and I couldn't get it to post because you can't post that way because it's not designed that way. And and it was actually Justin McCullough, CPA from CPA Enterprises in New York, who told me that I needed to just sit down and figure it out, get on Instagram, get on TikTok, and I'm running with basically everything right now, trying to get as much information out there as fast as I can, as much as I can. And, even if you, in your case, for example, if you took just a summary and talked about whatever the video is you just posted on YouTube, or when you get up to the point that you have 1,000 followers on TikTok, which you can do in a week or two, and then you could just start going live as you're recording things for YouTube and showing people how you do that. And maybe it blows up, maybe it doesn't, but at least you're learning the new thing. I know a lot of people are saying that, for example, Snap is on its way out. People really aren't paying attention to that anymore since Instagram took over all the best features of Snap as well. But I can see the possibility that if TikTok manages to continue evolving on some of the things, it could get huge. And there's an awful lot of exposure that you're getting nowadays. So you might want to look into adding that. Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I think this is probably the third interview that I've said I was going to, but I haven't. So let me put that one down.
Okay, so this Echo Interviews podcast, how often did you say that you're doing that?
So that is based off of seasons. So the first season, I was season 1, I had about 6 episodes, and I had the CEO of Remine, Leo Pareja. He was the top 8 Keller Williams agent when he was selling. He's not selling any longer, but he was not the top 1%, but he was the top Keller Williams agent back when he was selling. I've had Simon Chen. He was the CEO of ERA Realty, but they did some reorg. So he's, I think, VP of product development or something like that with Reology. So I went down that route for season 1 of the impact players when it comes to real estate. But season 2 will have eight guests, and most of those are actually, all of them are social media, let's just say influencers. I hate to use influencers, but social media that they're on and really dominating. So I have Joshua Smith, which he's a mega agent, sold over 5,000 homes. I had Chasten Miles, had Brian Casella. So people that have large platforms when it comes to YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and things of the like. To answer your question, I have that based in seasons. So Echo Interviews is in seasons, and I won't have a third season until probably spring of 2020. So I want to continue having high caliber guests. And I mean, I'm self-aware enough to know that a lot of my invitations are still going to junk or getting deleted right off the bat. But as the platform continues to grow, I will be able to, continue building the list of guests that you would consider big power players in the space. The ones that I've had, I'm super thankful and super glad. They are just way too awesome. Agreeing to do the Echo interviews already.
That's great. So you mentioned probably about 10, 15 minutes ago, specifically about the courses that you offer. Can you go into a little bit more detail and touch on them? I think it's more than one service that you offer in that space. They
are lead generation courses. So to put it simply, they are lead generation courses. So Facebook ads, Google ads, YouTube ads. So anything that is geared towards gathering leads or generating leads, that's what they're about. So Facebook ads, Google ads, YouTube ads. I have Craigslist in the pipeline. I have Instagram as a standalone in the pipeline, and then LinkedIn is probably going to be by the end of 2020. LinkedIn, it's just so good right now when it comes to organic reach that I'm a little bit late on that, but I'll continue to grow the product base, if you will.
And so, for example, on the stuff you're going to put together on LinkedIn, or actually in general, are you combining organic with paid ads on all these different platforms, or?
Yes, that's a great question. So the primary focus is on the paid strategies, and then incorporating a good amount of organic items. So the reason I do that is because people are fans of getting results now, and you can produce the best organic, let's just say YouTube course that is just solely on organic, but there are so many different elements, and the first month that people do it and don't see results, they become a little bit frustrated. So especially real estate agents. And I'm okay saying that because I am one. So I'm a big fan of now as well. So I don't fault them. I fall into that as well. And I didn't necessarily know that my YouTube channel was going to grow this slowly, but here we are.
Did you start the YouTube channel right away after deciding to become a realtor? When did you make that leap?
No, I started it a year ago. I started it a year ago. It was by accident, as some of my clients that I was working with worked on completely different schedules and had different habits when it came to either viewing my emails, viewing my texts, receiving my calls or not receiving my calls, listening to my voicemails or not receiving my voicemails. So I thought, well, I'm not going to be here repeating myself when I can make my time more valuable elsewhere. So I ended up recording some videos and sending them the, strategies that we were going to be deploying, and really essentially recapping everything that we continued to discuss. And then it just kind of took a mind of its own, and I started producing content more for real estate agents at that point. But that's really where the idea started coming from, of creating something once and then letting it live in a platform like YouTube so it can continue gathering steam. It's a great SEO tool. And so that's really where it came from.
That's fascinating. Some of the CPAs that I talk to actually do their client meetings over Zoom like this and record it and send it to the client. so that the client has a detailed set of instructions. Obviously, if you're giving advice to a specific client in something like this, you can't go posting that for everybody to see. But one thing that I have done, and I actually like the idea that you had there, when I've had something very complicated that I needed a client to do, steps to follow. For example, I had someone who had mistakes on his credit that he needed to get off, but there was a chance they weren't mistakes. And so we had a list of very detailed steps that he had to follow. And he got his credit scores up by 100 points in about 45 days, because he started with step one, and then they started blowing up his cell phone, trying to call him to talk to him. And I tell him, you got to block the number. Don't talk to them, because they're going to be recording you, and they're going to try to get you to admit to something that they're going to then take to court to try to sue you and have this thing get real sticky on your credit report. We're never going to get it off. And what I ended up having to do after the third phone call talking to him about it, this was not over video chat like this, is I turned on my webcam and I recorded a private video on YouTube, and it was like 10 minutes long, telling him, you've got to do this. Here's what they're going to do. Here's why they're going to do it. Here's how we're going to avoid it. And then after this happens, here's the next step. And everything came together perfectly for him. And this is a 23, 24-year-old kid who bought a $500,000 house with money that he'd saved up himself. I'm really impressed with a lot of these guys that were born in the mid 90s right now that are coming to us to get into homes, who just really have their stuff together.
Oh yeah.
They've saved money. They are a little gun shy after watching what happened to their parents 10 years ago when everything crashed. They're not overreaching. They're not overspending. They are saving. And sometimes they don't have the best credit from the standpoint of nobody's ever taught them how to use credit. I had one guy with a 0 FICO because he thought that it was better to pay everything off and close the accounts. And so we sat down with him, and 30 days after our meeting, he had an 800 FICO because he was able to get some of those accounts to reopen, which then reopened the 10 years of history for scoring purposes. And all of a sudden he had something we could work with.
Nice.
But I'm really impressed with what these kids have accomplished and what they're doing, and using the technology to make it easier for them. They grew up with this stuff. And so I think that they enjoy being able to, like you were saying, find you online. Your 75-year-old realtors who are making $1 million a year, but it's because they have a network that they've built up, but they just have the vacant profile picture on Zillow, for example. They're not working with these younger buyers for the most part. They're still doing paper contracts instead of using DocuSign to do them and things of that nature. And it just has to do with them being old school in the way they want to do things. Whereas, younger people like you're embracing technology, and you see the opportunity when it's there and you run with it. So 100%. I think that's fantastic.
Thank you.
What if, okay, so not from the standpoint of you being a 40-year powerhouse in the industry and doing your final questions from Echo interviews, but in your 2 to 3 years as a realtor, what roadblocks did you notice along the way that you can help people avoid if you've got someone who's wanting to get into the industry?
So roadblocks already as a realtor
that you've noticed along the way in the last 3 years.
Okay, it's a good question. I would say that this is more of a personal characteristic, and it was the feeling that I needed to have everything ready, that I needed to have all of the knowledge, that I needed to be extremely prepared, and not acting. So I'll break it down. It was just this, I'm preparing, and then just not acting, not taking, the steps necessary in order to get that listing, get a buyer,
Mm-hmm.
or producing the course, launching that video. So feeling this almost like this imposter syndrome, where you
Mm-hmm.
continue to prepare yourself and just never taking that action. So that's why a lot of the content that I have is the goal at the beginning of the video is to have something by the end that the agent, the lender, the title company can actually go out and do. Very much the same thing with the Echo interview series or show. There has to be something that people walk away from that they can go and act upon, because of the whole, for the past, and this goes beyond my real estate career, this goes into pretty much as much as I can remember, just trying to get it as perfect before even doing it. There's an element of preparation, don't mishear me, I'm not saying be reckless, but there has to be some steps that you need to take, because that's how you're going to learn. Your perfect plan without action is just never going to be that perfect plan. So having
Yep.
enough prepared, enough guts, enough courage to go out and do something and then refine things along the way is really the key to it. So that's something that I continue to battle every single day, and it's going to continue plaguing me until it's not, I guess.
Sure. No, that makes sense. Out of curiosity, okay, so you're in Texas, right? Whereabouts in Texas?
I'm in Dallas.
Okay. What does it take to become a realtor in Texas? What kind of education you need? What's your licensing? How hard is it to get it?
So you need you need to take 6 classes or credits for 6 classes, and I believe they are 30-hour credits, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
There are schools here that you can get the fast pass, if you will, and go, and if you're really dedicated, you can knock it out in several weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have enough credits to take the test. So you take the test, and all in, if you really book it and go to the classes that they offer in consecutiveness or just in order, you can be a real estate agent in about 2 months.
Okay.
That's that's reasonable. So 4 to 6 weeks worth of classes, just going as much as possible, and then waiting some time once you submit all of your paperwork to the state, waiting to get the authorization to test, and then passing ideally, and then receiving your your license to become an agent, and then going and hanging your license with the broker. So it's not all that long. It's just getting the understanding that you need in order to sit and take the exam.
And how long do you have to practice as an agent before you can qualify to be a broker?
I believe it's 2 years. It could be
Okay.
3.
It's 2 years here in California. I was just curious there.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's interesting. Is there some common myth about your field, either as a marketer or as a realtor, that everybody thinks is a certain way but isn't, that you could shed some light on?
Good question. Good question. Good question. Good question. Is there a common myth? Well, the biggest ones I would go, because I'm really pro YouTube at this point, and I've been
Mm-hmm.
pro YouTube since prior to me even starting. It's just that whole taking action, courage type stuff that led me to start the channel, what I consider late.
Mm-hmm.
It would be that you need to have millions and millions of views, millions of subscribers for YouTube to benefit you as an agent, to benefit you as a real estate professional. That is not true at all. So agents more than anybody, has this understanding or thought that you need thousands of views, that you need millions of views in order to get some business. But that's not the case. So if you speak of a topic that is of significance to somebody, you are really, what you're doing at that point is helping people raise their hand and become leads. So what that means is,
Mm-hmm.
depending on the topic that you're addressing, the viewers have self-identified as leads simply by the fact of the topic that you're covering. Why would they be watching whatever it is that you're watching unless there was some level of interest? You know, like, should I refinance, or should I sell my house before I purchase the next one? Why would somebody be watching that? Yes, there is a level of curiosity, but there's a lot of other places where people can go to YouTube to be entertained. So you're coming to YouTube to either be entertained or educated. And when you are watching a topic like that, you may have only 100 people watch your video, but think of the 100 people that are watching that. And the fact, like, for real estate agents, you may not be licensed somewhere else, but you can always get that referral fee. So if you have a strong call to action after that video, you know that those 100 people, they're watching it for a reason. And if you can give a compelling enough reason for them to exchange their phone number and email with you, that's super powerful. So I rambled on that one. Essentially,
no, that's fantastic.
You don't need the platform that you think that you need.
Because obviously, the NAR is very impressive. You know, referral fees amongst lenders are illegal, RESPA violation, whereas you guys have a carve out for it, and you can refer people to other licensed agents basically anywhere in the country, even if you're not licensed there, and you can get paid for that. So very impressed with your lobbyists. When it comes to loan officers, we can't do that. If you get caught, you can get fined, and you can get barred from financial services for life because it's a financial crime. But with realtors, it's part of your business, which, again, it's very impressive. And I wasn't even thinking about it from that standpoint, because obviously, if you had 1 million followers watching your video, you can't physically service 1 million people, and you're not going to have 1 million people coming to Dallas to buy a home. But if you have 100 people that like the specific topic that you address, and one piece of advice that I would have to people watching this is, if you're going to record a video about some specific thing that you know about or understand about homeownership or the way to proceed with certain things, record several different videos and give them different names, because YouTube is a fantastic search engine when it comes to, if you have buyers who want to search for, like Jaime just said, is it better to sell my house before I buy the next house? Well, find 10 different ways that they might type that into the search bar, and have 10 different versions of the same video and call them the different ways that you can think of to do that. And there are tools that you can go to that let you type in search terms and see how relevant that search term is to actual searches that are being done. And
can I add something to that?
Please.
So you're spot on split testing and getting that going. Something else that I would suggest is, just so you gain momentum, it's very easy to get deflated on YouTube. It's super, super easy. But so you get momentum, focus on topics that are early on in the sales cycle. So what does that mean? Focus on topics like the how to do your homestead exemption, or why you need to do a homestead exemption. Let's just say refinancing. Should I do that? Focus on those topics, because what did you just do? People that are watching, well, they're not watching because they're renters. They're watching because they have a mortgage, or they're watching because they haven't applied their homestead exemption. It happened this week. I have a channel that is for real estate agents. I have a channel that's for what I call the B2C, so business to consumer, business to client side. And that channel is super small. I only have 60 subscribers there, and I really don't get any views there, but the views that I get do give calls. This week actually, no, what are we, Tuesday? Last week, I'm sorry, had somebody call me on my homestead exemption video. They have 13 acres, several properties on those 13 acres. And yes, they needed help when it comes to that homestead exemption and navigating through that system, but they are going to be dividing that property up, and they're going to be selling. So that sale won't happen this year. It may not happen next year, but if you can continue cultivating that, that's something I would have never come across. That's something based off of a video that I did about 9 months ago. It's got maybe 1,000 views at this point. Again, the channel is small, but it resonated enough to have this young lady call me and say, hey, this is the situation. So you establish that trust.
Yeah, isn't
long before I
technology
ever asked.
fantastic?
Yeah.
I mean, that's something you did 9 months ago, and it's still working for you. And
100%.
someone who happens to need it right now finds it, picks up the phone, and calls you.
And that's the thing. I don't have to tell them how good I am. One, I provided something of value from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
They saw enough value in that to reach out to me because they saw me as the thought leader in that. And then I helped them again. And who do you think that they're going to reach out again? Well, I'm not going to say that there's not going to be another agent out there. At the end of the day, this is going to be a referral because this young lady is in Austin, but kind of ties in the whole referral part that we were just speaking about. And I'm not delusional enough to feel that they're going to use me automatically. However, I have a leg up already. And as long as I continue doing what an agent is supposed to be good at, which is follow up, I'm not going to say the sell is made because there's no such thing. However, I have a significant advantage at this point. So I just can't stub my toe at this point.
That's fantastic. No, I love that. Is there anything you think I should have asked you that I didn't touch on so far?
You have great questions. I can't think of anything really. The only other question I could possibly think of is, where to go and not where to go, where to focus on your 2020 efforts. And we kind of already touched on it just based off of the topics that we've covered. You mentioned TikTok, which I do agree with you, and I do need to look at that and at least experiment with it because there is a lot of commotion around that, or a lot of interest in that at the moment. But for me, I would say YouTube. Focus on YouTube. At least look at it, see what it can do for your business, because real estate is something that it can certainly work with. Dry cleaning, it can certainly work with. Coffee, it can certainly work with. It's just a lot of value in educating, and there's a lot of value in entertaining, and that's really what the platform is about. So regardless of the business, I would encourage the viewers or the listeners to take a look at YouTube and see what you can add to the platform and what the platform can do for your business.
That's fascinating. Side question for you. How many different YouTube channels are you running for the content that's out there? Is it all in one channel? Or are you putting it in different places?
I only have two channels. One is for the B2C, so business to client, and then the other is what I call the B2B, so business to business, which is for real estate professionals. So in that channel, I have 3,400 subscribers. It's not large. Again, it's something that you don't need I don't need 1 million subscribers. Would I love 1 million? Yes, of course. However, I don't need it in order for it to be a viable business in and of itself in the size that it's at. But the goal is to get to 10,000 subscribers by the end of 2020 at this point.
Excellent. So for people who want to reach out to you and learn what they can as far as the social media marketing tricks that you have or the programs that you use for coming up with client data, what's the best place to look for you?
It'd be YouTube. I'm going to beat this one. I'm going to beat this one to death. It's going to be YouTube. Okay. So Jaime Resendiz, Jaime, and then Resendiz, Resendiz. And I'm going to pop right up.
Perfect. Well, I'll go ahead and in the description, put links to your different profiles and to your YouTube channels. Thank you so much for your time. And
thank you.
I'll let you know when we're ready to go and have this post.
Appreciate it.